Zach, I feel like the Larry David meme, the confused meme, where he's like thinking, like, he can't really figure it out. I mean, I feel like I lived that my life in that state permanently, but more so this morning, coming out of that Philly series, I'm like, oh, offense really stunk it up in the last two games of that series. It was against Zach Wheeler in the finale. He was really good. You got two of your best pitching performances of the season back to back between Bybee and Ortiz. Like, that's all right. That's kind of how I feel this morning. I'm like taking some of the good, some of the bad, trying to mesh it together with where I'm at. I don't really know.
Well, even take into account the entire week. The offense was incredible against the Nationals. And the pitching just wasn't quite up to par. And that's how you lost 10-9 in the first game of that series. And then the pitching was incredible this weekend. But the offense just wasn't quite there. And it's just, what a roller coaster. Not a fun roller coaster. Like, kind of like the one at Memphis Kitty Park that's been there for decades that I had to ride with my toddler last year. And I'm the only person over like 3 feet tall riding this thing. And your back is sore for like 3 weeks afterwards.
Sometimes I wonder about those rides that we rode as kids. How are we still here? How are we able to host this show, considering probably the dangers we were put in on some of those rides?
I need a shirt that says, I survived raging wolf bobs at Jogga Lake when I was a kid.
Yeah. What was the Cedar Point all wooden roller coaster? I remember riding that as a younger kid and just like loving it. It was so much fun, and it was old and rickety, and oh, this is great. And then I remember riding it later and needing a chiropractor visit afterwards. That was awful. That was terrible. What was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, I know there's Gemini, right? That's the one where there's like the dueling cars. There was another one like toward the back of the park, maybe?
Yeah,
Is that the one you're thinking of?
It might have been. Yeah. All I know is it left my back all jacked up. Maybe how I feel after the end of this series, and maybe how I feel after the first quarter of the season. I can't believe we're already to that mark. We are 1/4 of the way into the season. It's the time where we can all make grand declarations. It's early conversation, it's done. Now you can make grand sweeping accusations about what you think the team is.
I thought you were about to say after 1/4 of the Cavs game, game 4.
Yikes. Why you got to do that now? People are trying to get past that. And
Yeah.
here you are bringing it back.
How about the Sunday night exposure that Cleveland sports got? Jeez. I just imagine certain fans saying, all right, Guardians are on national TV, Cavs obviously on national TV. Guardians start first. Let's tune in. Oh, God. Kyle Schwarber home run? Really? We're still doing this? Where's Joe Buck? Doesn't he work for ESPN now? And then saying, all right, well, Cavs are about to tip off. I can switch over. This game's boring. Guardians offense isn't doing anything. And then it's like, oh, wait, no. Get me back to the Guardians. What's going on here? Just in time for Schwarber to hit another home run. Hey.
You are just a bundle of joy. I was trying to find the good in it today, and you're just beating me down over the head with all the negative. We are a quarter of the way into the season. I have some questions prepared for you. We're going to do the typical shtick that every podcast does a quarter of the way into the season. We're not above it. We're not better than anybody else, so we're going to do some of that today. You mentioned the Sunday night atmosphere, too. I just want to talk Sunday night baseball just briefly. We did the Mariners comeback game a couple of years ago now. We did that full recap, and we spent a lot of time talking about what Sunday night baseball used to feel like. That's not there anymore. I want to spend some time on that. Welcome to the show, by the way. It is the Selby's Guidecast. I'm TJ. That's Zach. We spend a lot of time talking about absolutely nothing. If you're unfamiliar with the show, this is our game.
Make sure to subscribe to our Patreon, though.
We do have fun over there. Where do you want to start at today? What are you feeling this morning?
I don't know. The Cavs. It reminded me of a rec league team that my friends and I assembled in like 2012, where I think it was in Cleveland Heights, and every game we lost like 85-20. And when I saw the 80-39 halftime score, that was the first thing that came to mind. But I will say that season, this has nothing to do with anything. I'm so sorry. Don't unsubscribe. Please click the like button. But it just reminded me, we were like 0 and a million, and Then, we're scoring like 25 points a game. We scored 100 points in a game. So after the game, I posed for a picture holding like the Wilt Chamberlain thing, holding the card that says 100. And like we all posted it. We're all excited. We lost 144 to 100.
How?
But yeah.
How is that possible?
Not much defense.
Zach Meisel hits a big 3 to cut the lead to 44.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Well, there's been more good than bad. I wouldn't say the Guardian season has been anything like your rec league team so far this year.
Our team name, by the way, was Nash Potatoes and Mick Grady.
Should have just kept that to yourself.
We deserve to lose.
I've prepared a number of questions for you. Some of them, I would imagine, maybe most of them are just what you would expect. But let's take the temperature today. Let's examine this team, figure out what some of the strengths and weaknesses are, and maybe who has emerged beyond our expectations. All that's in here today. So let's start right there. Zach, quarter of the way into the season, who has exceeded your expectations the most?
Daniel Schneemann has to be the answer here, I guess. He seemed, we thought, okay, Arias, like he'll probably get one more shot here at second base. And we felt Rocchio can build off of that playoff run. And maybe Angel Martinez factors into this somehow. Juan Brito, even if it's not opening day, he'll be part of this. And with Schneemann, it felt like the ceiling was utility guy. And the floor was like, I don't want to say high, but you knew this guy could hit a righty's fastball and he could play solid defense and he was versatile, but he's been great. And at a time when they've needed it, because a lot of those options in the middle infield either haven't worked out, they're injured, or you've needed Martinez in center field. So he's been important, and on a team full of guys who have not exceeded expectations, he's been a really nice bright spot. And someone who, I don't know that he's going to be your second baseman for the next 10 years, but he's one of those guys where it's play him until he is not hitting well. And that's kind of the MO this team has to live by at the moment.
Yeah, I feel sort of similar to how I felt about to bring all the teams here in Cleveland into today's show. The quarterback in Cleveland. Everyone wants to know who's the quarterback for the next 10 years. And yeah, sure, that's what everyone wants to know about their team. And if you have it, it's such a weight off your shoulders. But when you haven't had good quarterback play, can I just worry about the quarterback for the next 10 minutes? And if the guy's playing well and he's a veteran, then that's fine. Or if he's young enough and he's playing well, fine. And if you get to a point where you can find an upgrade or you think somebody's better and you can make that swap, fine. But right now, this is who is excelling at the opportunity that they're given, and that's been Daniel Schneemann. I don't know that we need to figure out the second base position even 2 months from now. It doesn't really matter to me. You just need to run out whoever is swinging the bat well. And even when he has a day where it's not great, you still see the signs of the good discipline at the plate, drawing walks. He even had a pretty good plate appearance to draw a walk in Sunday night's game. So you're still seeing signs of the same player. Is he the guy that's going to have a 20% barrel rate for the entire season? Probably not. But is he good enough to at least get you to whoever the next answer is? Maybe. And I think we get caught up in our own bubbles so much of thinking about what are the strengths and weaknesses about the team that we watch every single night, and we neglect to realize every team has questions all over the place, and they just need to get an answer for as long as they can get one. And to me, that's all I'm thinking about Daniel Schneemann being. Just an answer until you need another answer. And that's fine. And if he keeps putting up good at-bats, nobody's stealing the playing time. Brian Rocchio has now found himself on the bench this series against the Phillies. And who can argue with that?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to win. That's the reason why you take that approach. Otherwise, it would be just we're twiddling our thumbs until it's Bazana or Brito or Angel Hanau, right? So you play the guys who are helping you win, and he has been one of the few, unfortunately, who have done that. Gabriel Arias for me would be like the runner-up here. I think the difference between them is, and this is not to take away from Arias, with Arias, he deserves to play every day, even if I'm skeptical that the gaudy numbers he had been putting up will continue, just because the metrics show like the whiff rate's still rough, and he's made strides with his walk rate, his strikeout rate, but I have questions about what his numbers will look like at the end of the season. But he's done well enough that I want to find out what they will be at the end of the season. Whereas with Schneemann, it's like, metrics look good too. Continue to do what you're doing, and you should get rewarded for it. And I should keep playing you so that contributes to winning. Like there's, yeah. So like those should be. I mean, you've seen it. Those two guys should be your middle infield for right now, and they have been. You know, Rocchio's got 2 starts in the last 10 days. So I think you're going to continue to see that.
It's probably unfair in how you're going to evaluate these two guys, Arias and Schneemann, in that Arias probably has to do less to fend off anybody else to hold on to the shortstop position. He doesn't have to do as much as maybe Schneemann does to fend off second base, center field, all these guys that are going to be coming back into the fold here in the next several weeks and then months with Fry as well. So there's going to be some juggling, and second base could be a landing spot for Angel Martinez on certain days, and certainly Schneemann, whatever's happened with Rocchio, maybe Brito down the road. So he has to keep kind of hitting above his head a little bit to hold on to that spot every single day. Whereas Arias, who else is going to steal those shortstop at-bats from him right now? And really the floor, as long as he is above average with the bat and really good with the glove, there's going to be no conversation about replacing him, or really he's going to have to look over his shoulder for anybody else stealing playing time. So it's sort of an unfair evaluation. Schneemann has to continue to be a little bit better than Arias to hold on to the spot, I guess is my point here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen like Santana and Giankenzie Noel take grounders on the infield, so on the left side of the infield. So you never know.
Okay. Well, both of those guys at times this year have been a disappointment in Santana and Noel. Who has been the biggest disappointment you think so far this year? Is it the easy one that we all think is going to come here?
Can I say a pitcher? Or does it have to be a hitter?
No, it can be whoever you want, and I would welcome it, because I thought this was an easy answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a few to choose from here. I'll go Gavin Williams, and I think it's mostly because of, and I never put stock into spring training performance, but it wasn't the numbers, it was the ease with which he was just cruising. And I think that was sort of validation about him being frustrated with last season. We expected big things from him last season. You and I proclaimed he'd strike out 200 guys. And then he was injured, and then when he came back, he was pretty ineffective. And so it just seemed like from day one of the year, he was on a mission. And instead, it's been painful at times. And even when the end results look good, like 5 scoreless innings on Friday night, well, but look what it took to get there. 98 pitches, 4 walks. And it's just, it's not coming easy at all. So to me, I'd go him. He certainly has company in the answer to this question. Could go a bunch of different ways. And also, like, if Tanner Bybee looked as electric as we know he can look, and if Luis Ortiz was a little more consistent, and if, Shane Bieber was healthy, then maybe we'd go a little easier on Gavin Williams. But I think the fact that you see the stuff is there, and it's like, you should still, like, it's in you. I believe in you.
Yeah.
Go believe in yourself and throw strikes.
I don't disagree with that he's been a disappointment, considering maybe the expectation level, how excited we were to begin the year with him. But I'm going to go a different direction, because I think Gavin has pitched well enough that I'm not questioning his role. He's going to keep running him out there because I see enough good. It's tantalizing enough. He's going to keep getting that opportunity. The guy I will say I thought was the easy one, Brian Rocchio, and I will say it because he's not even good enough to be a starter on this team. He took none of what we saw in the postseason or even in spring training too. I mean, he carried some of that and was still hitting the ball well in spring training, and that's completely gone. I would imagine the confidence is at 0 right now, and defensively he has not been good either. So he's had nothing to really hang his hat on here, and we were looking for him to make that jump. Now, did he have to hit 320? Do we have to see the same postseason Rocchio? Maybe in your dreams, maybe in your fantasies. Maybe when
The
I took
Larry
him high
David
in the war
face.
draft, then I'm getting my ass kicked in because everyone I took is either hurt or absolutely sucks. I don't know what you did. I don't know how you did it,
Let's
but
just
you're going to do it
win.
again. You're going to
Winners
do it
win,
again.
man.
Someday you're going to have to show us under the bed all the voodoo dolls you got under there. And anyway, I think Rocchio has been the biggest disappointment because he's not worthy of even starting. He's maybe not even worthy of keeping around on the roster once Lane Thomas returns. And certainly when this starts to get a little bit more crowded later in the year, when you could have a Brito, you could have some other guys in the conversation here. David Fry is going to come back. I know he's going to be taking DH spots, but still, his spot on the roster is not guaranteed right now. And even the manager has said he's going through it and he's working on things, but he's not a guy you want in the lineup right now. So I can't come away any less encouraged. Biggest disappointment for me, and it's an easy one, Brian Rocchio.
Yeah, I guess I didn't go him because I didn't have sky-high expectations for him anyway. I thought he'd be better than he was last season, but I believed that based on age, development, learning. I think it's difficult to make changes mid-season. You play every day. And while you're working on things and you're studying, it's really difficult to just, like, you need sometimes, let me step away for a week or two, change my mechanics, change my swing path, change my mental approach, and then get back to it. But that's tough to pull off. So I thought he'd be a little bit better just because he had an offseason to digest everything he went through. And he ended on a good note. And so maybe that would springboard him. But I even said it when we debated the Andres Gimenez trade. You are putting an awful lot of faith into a shortstop who didn't hit all season. He had a healthy walk rate, but that was it. And then he went like 11 for 35 or whatever in the playoffs. And that's what you're banking on and you're committing to this guy. I think the troubling thing to me, he's 0 for his last 28. And in that stretch, 0 walks. So that walk rate, that was the one thing keeping his head sort of above water last year or at water level. It's cut in half this season. So you're not seeing signs. And also, like, he's human. So you're going through these struggles. Nothing's going right for you. You're not hitting. Slugging percentage is under 200. You're not drawing walks. So you're not getting on base. You're not going, you're not doing those things that help this team win games, like going first to third or stealing a base or whatever. And then the defense isn't where it was last year. And like, you can see the body language, right? Like, he looks like a guy who's going through it. He looks like a guy who's well aware of what the numbers say. And that's just a tough spot to be in. And I really think that he'd be in AAA, but they don't really have anyone to call up. Will Wilson's already here. Daniel Schneeman's already here. Angel Martinez is already here. So he's certainly an option when Lane Thomas returns to go back to AAA. He's not the only option either. But yeah, I think in certain cases, like I think about Gavin Williams, we talked about, well, why would you send him to AAA when he can just blow away 22-year-old hitters with his stuff anyway? Yeah. Noel, like, I go back and forth. Like, would it help him playing every day? Yeah, maybe. But like, I know that he can hit home runs against AAA pitching, and when he eventually comes back up, I don't know that he's going to be playing every day up here anyway.
Well, I don't think it's more so to fix Noel. It would be just he needs the reps to get into a rhythm.
Yeah. My point is I can see both sides of that argument. With Rocchio, I think it would absolutely be beneficial. Go play every day at AAA, take some pressure off, and forget about, you go to the plate, you see the numbers on the scoreboard, and you're like, oh, crap, I got to fix that. Go to AAA. Those numbers won't follow you to Columbus.
I wonder, do you let him work now with the Major League staff, with the Major League data coordinators, everybody, you put in the work in the cage with everybody now, and then you turn him loose in the minor leagues once he's been given that oversight and initially to get him on the path where you think he needs to be, and then he needs the reps. So I'm wondering if it's just a process of rehabilitating him, and right now it's more beneficial to be up here working with the Major League staff, and then once you feel like he's in a good spot with his work in the cage, side, everywhere else. Then you send him down to AAA to get the regular at-bats, to implement everything he's been working on. And maybe most importantly, rebuild the confidence. Yeah, Gavin Williams doesn't need the confidence to know he can blow away a AAA hitter. But for Brian Rocchio, maybe having some left turns at first base, regardless of where it's at, could just help him get his mind better, just where he needs to be. I'm not saying that's going to fix anything, but...
Yeah, I would sign up for that plan.
Let me hit you with the next one.
They have nothing to lose by doing that.
Who's the biggest hear me out? And what I mean by that is someone that's not really doing anything, but you're like, whoa, hold on. Give it time. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with the obvious one. I'm going to go Luis Ortiz. And I'm doing it on the heels of what was a really good start against a solid lineup that the Phillies have. More than solid. And here's the hear me out of it. You're seeing a very different pitcher. You know, when the Guardians target Luis Ortiz, they're not saying, well, this guy had a 3.32 ERA last year. We like that. Sign us up. Let's acquire him. No. They're envisioning what they can do with a guy whose body moves that way, a guy whose pitches move a certain way. Because if you look at the strikeout rate is way up. He wasn't striking guys out last year. And when you start to understand, okay, well, clearly they had in mind different pitch usage or different just delivery mechanics, whatever it was, that they could get more out of. So obviously this is not the finished product. He's definitely been better. You see the vision here. You see what he could be. But it's such a different pitcher than it was last year that I think you can understand it's a process. And it's going to take time. And you have to have patience. And in the end, you get what made him, the foundation that made him a solid pitcher last year. And then the electric stuff being used to his advantage and translating into a ton of strikeouts and a bunch of swing and miss that he didn't really have last year. I mean, you look at his slider whiff rate is way up. He's throwing his fastball more. The velo's up a little bit. Just things that if they can make some tweaks on the edges, you see the benefit. Now, the question is, can he have an ERA he had last year with more strikeouts and more innings? And, it's interesting. I think about when they're acquiring him, knowing that they're going to have him for the long haul. He's still pre-arb. You're envisioning, what can this guy look like in 2 or 3 years? It's not just about 2025. So I think you're seeing them try to unlock a guy who can be even better than he was last season, but to be even better than he was last season, he might have to be a little bit worse at the beginning. But what you've seen is his start last night where he goes 6 innings against the Phillies, strikes out 9, looked really good, right? And you've seen more of that lately. You've seen some clunkers, but when he's good, he's really good. He was really good against the Twins. He was really good against the Royals when he struck out 10 and 5 2/3. He was really good in Pittsburgh. There's something that they're building on here, and I think just hear me out. It's going to be a process, and I think we've known that all along. You're just finally seeing the beginning of the fruits of the labor.
100% agree. He would have been my guy too, even if you didn't pick him. What's been interesting is the usage. I would think when he came over here, we've seen them sometimes say throw the 4-seamer less. When Ben Lively came over here, I remember us having a conversation about his 4-seamer getting killed, and we kind of theorized maybe you lean more into the softer contact instead of trying to chase strikeouts or really living with the 4-seamer. And that works for him. That's kind of been part of the molding process for him. For Ortiz, they actually said, no, we're going to throw the 4-seamer a little bit more, and your 2-seamer is going to dip down. We're barely going to use that. And everything else, the changeup has gone up this year, so he's kind of replaced some of the sinker usage with changeup and really relied on the 4-seamer. I can dig into the data and find plenty of stuff I like here. Of course, the command has not been good at all times. Sometimes I wonder, when you're implementing a new arsenal, is it just you don't really know how to command it yet? And that's going to come with time. Maybe it does. I'm never, like, looking back through the numbers, the command to this level through much of this year hasn't been the problem that's plagued him in the past. So as the changes are implemented, I understood there's going to be some hard days in here. I also just watch him with my eyes. Maybe that's the wrong thing to do. But occasionally...
What a sentence.
But occasionally, I just want to watch how the stuff moves and how hitters interact with it. How many times do hitters just give up on a pitch that just has this incredible arm side comeback run to it, and he just nicks the outside of the plate? And some of the movement on these pitches, it looks Pitching Ninja quality. Pitching Ninja could just grab every single strikeout, and they look fantastic. It looks like there's so much fun in there that is bubbling to the surface, and you see it in starts like yesterday, last night. He's going up against a really good Phillies lineup with some very talented hitters in it. And even if it's a slog to get through your 6 innings, but the end result's really good and you're getting your strikeouts still, like, there's so much good hidden within there that I know the numbers on the surface still don't look great. Man, am I excited for what the future could bring for him. Just look at the stuff. Look at the way hitters interact with it, and tell me you can't be excited about what the future looks like for him.
Yeah, I just think it's finding the best. I mean, he was basically a 4-pitch pitcher last year, and now he's 5. But each pitch moves a little bit differently. And when it's coming at you, you know, that fastball at 97, 98, and he's getting good extension. And then he's going to throw, you know, the 2-seamer looks a little bit different, moves differently. Changeup moves a little bit differently, and it's a little slower. Or the slider gets in on your hands, and you're like, well, but I thought that was going to be a changeup or a fastball. And like the cutter, oh, I thought that was going to be the slider. But there's just enough separation there. It's just enough little bit different movement. And you have to account for everything here. A lot of times you're either going to swing or miss. You're just going to make weak contact. That's the end goal here. And so the question is just, how long will it take for him to get in a good rhythm where he's commanding all of those? And then he's going to make this look easy. Because when it's right now, the clunkers, those are painful. Those are the Gavin Williams type starts where it's, you know, you're gutting your way toward 5 innings and it's taking a ton of pitches and there's a bunch of walks and it's ugly. But hopefully you see fewer of those as you go, and
yeah,
then you understand. Like it would be one thing to just repeat what he did last year, but I think the Guardians feel like there's more to it to scratch at.
Yeah,
and they're on their way to doing that.
100% agree. I mean, even the clunker, he had the Yankees start. Didn't he strike out 8 still in that performance? Like, even in the bad, you're able to pull out some great there that you can build on there. Let's do an easy one. Who's just been the most valuable player for this team?
Well, I would say it's Austin Hedges, and the way he's just, you know, making pitches work. And
you make fun of him, but go look at his WAR total.
I know, no.
Killing it.
It's Stephen Kwan, and someone asked me in my mailbag to like compare him and Kenny Lofton, and they're very different players, obviously. I think the comparison I would make, and that I did make, is that whether it's Mike Hargrove or Stephen Vogt, how nice is it to be able to just write that name in the top spot of your order every day, never think twice about it, and feel great about that luxury? Like, those are, I was trying to think of like the last 30 years, the best table setters that we've seen. And like Grady Sizemore is the only other person who I think could challenge for a spot in this conversation, but he was such a different.
They were so eager to get him out of the leadoff spot too. Like, every chance they got. No, we want to hit him down a little bit lower.
So I really think it's Kwan and Lofton, and there's nobody like, sorry, Chris McGruder. Sorry, Kosuke Fukudome, but
watch it.
Yeah, and the other thing about the two guys, while they're very different, they're both so well-rounded, right? Like, both obviously Gold Glove defenders, and I mean, they're completely different in terms of size and athleticism. Like, let's get that out of the way. Stephen Kwan was not starring on the hardwood for Oregon State like Lofton was at Arizona. But they're not bad at anything. Like, Kwan can steal a base. Kwan is so elite at strike zone awareness and plate discipline and making contact. And maybe Lofton wasn't quite as good at those things, but Lofton would draw walks too. And Kwan could steal a base. Not going to steal 70 like Lofton would. Both guys, I think, could hit a home run when it made sense to do so. And more than anything, those are the guys you want table setting. Those are the catalysts. And for Kwan, like, this has been the culmination of, we've seen pieces of it over his first 3 years where it's like, all right, this dude, he can slap any pitch to the outfield and hit for average. And all right, this guy, like, ooh, he's showing a little power now. And finally, it's all put together. He's got the power. I think he'll probably wind up with like 15 home runs this season, as many walks as strikeouts. He's hitting .331 and 5 stolen bases, hasn't been caught. Like, he's so smart at everything he does. And I think the big thing with him is he knows how to get better. You see the gradual improvements year after year. And like, I think he just decides, this is what I want to be better at. And he goes and he does it. And I don't know. He's a great player. He's fun to watch.
I think one of the biggest testaments to him and his skill is that he's hitting .331, as you said, with a 148 WRC plus. And if you're hitting .331, it's going to be hard to not notice you're hitting .331. That's incredible. But he doesn't feel like, sometimes hitters go on a streak where they have a month where they hit .330, they hit .350. They go a Jason Kipnis month where he built like a whole season on 1 month in that month of May. .331 for him, this does not feel like, oh, he's really hot, but he's going to cool off a little bit. Like, this just feels steady. This just feels acceptable. I could buy he does this the entire season, and he probably won't. He probably won't hit .333, .331 by the end of the season. But this doesn't feel completely unsustainable either.
No. Do you know what the lowest his average has been at the end of a game this season? 300 on the dot.
Could you
April
imagine?
9th.
300, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it also, like, does it feel like he's been scorching hot at any point?
That's what I mean. It just feels consistently there.
Like, he's last summer when he got up to 398, and I think for one at bat, 400, it felt at that moment like this guy, it's like NBA Jam. Like, he is on fire. And then he obviously cooled off. But it hasn't, you're right. He's been so steady. And usually we always talk about, I think you mentioned it recently on one of our episodes, where it was a guy hits 300 and we all think like, oh, he hit 300 all year, when really it was like he was hitting 380 and then he went ice cold and then he got hot again. But Kwan has been consistent. That's hard to do.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's not doing what hitters actually do. He's doing the thing you picture in your head, that a 300 hitter is always going to be hitting 300. But he's doing that just consistently every single game. I think this dude's going to be on base. Every time he comes to the plate, I just expect he's going to be on base, whether it's via a single, double, one of the gap, or just getting on base via a walk. I believe it's going to happen, and it feels like an upset if he doesn't. But at the very least, I know it's going to be a tough at-bat. Like, how many times do you see him come up and, like, the first or second pitch of the at-bat, he just rolls over casually to second base? Does that ever happen? I'm sure it has, but it never feels like he's ever done that.
And it very well, like, it should happen. He doesn't make hard contact. He doesn't have great bat speed. Like, I would understand if that happened regularly, but it doesn't. Because that's how good of a hitter he is. He knows exactly which pitch. Like, it's almost like, a hitter has, 0.3 seconds to decide what to do when a pitch is coming their way. It feels like he has 10 seconds. He's able to, process, okay, well, let's see. That is going to be a slider, and it's going to be off the plate, trying to backdoor it. So I should lay off, because if I swing at this, I'll make contact, obviously. But I'm just going to like poke it to the third baseman, and that would be a waste of time. Okay, I won't swing at this. And then the slider, it does exactly that. Like, it's like this guy has an eternity to make decisions and to process everything.
To make everything on here old X gifs that used to be prominent everywhere. It's the Zack Galifianakis hangover meme where he's just processing the numbers outside of his head. That's Quan. And it's by design. This is not by accident. I mean, of course, I think he mentally has some sort of gift that he's able to process this quickly. Maybe that's just all the years of chess. He attributes that, to the strategy element. But I think it's
by
also...
the way,
it's also
because you mentioned chess.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Nolan Jones and Kyle Manzardo engaged in a chess battle on Sunday afternoon, and Quan was sitting there watching them. And I know this is not intentional, but it was funny the way it played out, where Nolan Jones beats Kyle Manzardo, and then, oh, what do you know? Both guys have to go to a meeting or something. Stephen Kwan slid in, waiting to play the winner or play anybody, and neither guy wanted a piece of him. So, yeah.
I think this is a thing that he does on purpose. I think he stands in the box the way he does on purpose. Even on the broadcast, they were talking about a conversation they had with him, and he knows he can pull a pitch for a home run. He's proven that to himself. He can do that. But he also knows he's not going to hit on purpose a home run to the opposite field or center field. So all that stuff on the outside edge, there's no thought in his brain that he's going to drive that ball. He's just going to serve it if he needs to, or foul it off and try to draw the pitcher in with a mistake, or trying to bury it in to try to jam him, and they miss, and he pulls it, and it's a loud out or a loud base hit or some sort of powerful contact. And I think that's all part of it. It's all part of the swing decision. And also, yes, we know his swing, he doesn't have great bat speed, but I think the quickness with when the swing starts to when he makes contact has to be incredibly fast. There has to be some sort, like, we now can gauge, we know what average sprint speed is, but there's also that bolt where you can see like a very small snippet of how quickly they can get up to that speed. And I think we need something like this with bat speed too, where it's not just how quickly does it get through or the speed of the swing, but how quickly do you get bat to ball? And I think that has to be a skill that he just excels at, because that gives him the extra time to process, know where the pitch is going to be. If it's not where he wants it, let it go, or let it travel deep enough that all you do is foul it off. And then you live to see the pitch that you actually want.
Do you know what Stephen Kwan's OPS is after an 0-2 count?
His OPS after an 0-2 count. 780.
That'd be incredible.
I thought that's why you would bring it up, because it was like something crazy.
801. It is 161% better than league average.
That's crazy.
He is a 351 hitter after an 0-2 count. And I think one of the highest compliments you can pay any batter is probably just that when they get to 2 strikes, that doesn't change what you anticipate out of the at-bat. And I think even for the hitter, it doesn't really change much either. Whether it's a 2-0 count or 0-2 count, I don't think there's a huge difference.
Let me hit you with another question. I just wanted to spend some time talking about Stephen Kwan because he's a fun guy to talk about. But what's one thing that needs to change in the next 25% of the season? What's the biggest thing that needs to shift gears?
I'm torn on this. I think I would say just the rotation becomes more consistent, and it's been good for the last week or so, right? The last turn through the rotation was really good. I think Logan Allen was the only one who had a rough start. But there are so many things that I think need to get straightened out with the lineup that I think the best case scenario is just the rotation gets on a roll to take a little bit of pressure off the lineup. Like, I don't even know where I would, if I was going to answer your question with something with, well, right field, or you got to get more out of catcher or first base or shortstop or whatever. I could go in a million directions. Give me a good pitching staff, and that way I only need whoever it is in the lineup to score 4 runs. And I just think the rotation's been so inconsistent so far that it's been tough. This team it's been a roller coaster. A lot of ebbs and flows with every phase of the roster. And I think the best way to kind of smooth things out is for the rotation to get humming.
Kind of fixes everything. When you just get good starting pitching, it lets you survive when you have a bad offense. And if you have great pitching, a bullpen can kill it, but it can at least take some of the burden off of them. No, I'm not really concerned about that. I know they had some rough games here recently. Long term, I'm not really concerned about the bullpen now being not a strength. I think they're going to be just fine. Yeah, fixing the starting rotation or just getting more consistency and more length out of them would be huge. And we've seen glimpses with Bybee so far this year, and the ERA looks okay. Like I'm sure he's not satisfied with a 3.8, I think it is. But below the surface, he's not been his typical self yet this year. And maybe that's a notch in the positive, that he hasn't been great and he's still getting mostly positive results. I don't think he can continue to pitch the exact same way and maybe get those results, but I think he can certainly be better than he's been so far. Obviously, you touched on right field. As much as we think the process has been good, the overall numbers have been brutal there. Now, I'm curious to see what happens once Lane Thomas returns. Mm-hmm. This is going to be fascinating. I think it's a good problem to have in that you have one extra bat maybe that you'd like to work in, and you don't want to run away from Nolan Jones because there's still some inputs there that you like. And Angel Martinez, how can you take anything away from his performance and the spark that he can bring? But Lane Thomas, they need Lane Thomas to get back to being Lane Thomas, an actual difference maker towards the middle of this lineup. They're going to be a better offense if he's capable of just being that, especially against lefties. Right now, the lineup, I know going into the year we all felt really good things about them against lefties, but they need that Lane Thomas presence to bring some added power. Giancarlo Noel's not bringing that right now. So it's going to get fascinating what they do with right field, center field, second base. This is all in the next week going to be shifting a little bit. And maybe it's going to take some creativity. Guys just have to play different spots. I don't think you should just throw Lane Thomas back in center field and call it a day. I don't think that's the best use of everyone you have on this roster. Maybe it just works itself out and someone will go cold, someone else will go hot, and you makes the choice for you. But right now, I would not be just penciling in Lane Thomas 6 days a week in center field. I think he plays maybe 2 days in center field, 2 days in right field because you have a lefty on the mound for the opposing team. But I think you need to continue to work everybody in that carousel, and I think it's going to get more difficult for Stephen Vogt to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you could send down Rocchio, you could send down Noel, you could send down Will Wilson, and that's not even. It's more how do you assign the playing time?
Yeah, it's not the roster
to whomever's
spot.
Right, to whomever's left, and this is like step 1 of the roster puzzle confusion, and then step 2 will come in a few weeks when David Fry returns. And he's going to take away playing time from either Carlos Santana or Kyle Manzardo. And in a way, also, I think Giancarlo Noel, just because it'll be right field or bust, basically, for him and Nolan Jones. No DH opportunities available. And if Lane Thomas and Angel Martinez are covering center and right field sometimes or most of the time, then, there's going to be a few too many cooks here in the kitchen. And it's just hit. Just people hit. If you hit, you can stay. If not, you got to go or you're going to lose opportunities. So you're right. This will be interesting. And I think what we have said is, it might not make sense how this team with, team OPS plus of 97, meaning they've been slightly below average, team ERA plus of 95, which means they've been slightly below average, and a team record of 23-17, which means they've been above average overall. Like, okay, that doesn't quite add up. And we've said that can be a good thing. You would think that this roster would take shape as the season goes on. You get some injured guys back. You get some better performances out of guys who you know can deliver better performances like Bybee and Clase, and maybe Gavin Williams fits that. And I think the roster shaping is a really interesting part of this. And it starts with Lane Thomas coming back. And, you could say that the first 6 weeks of the season were somewhat of an audition. And certain guys, like I think Nolan Jones, will get a little bit longer of an audition because he's out of options and because you traded something for him and because the metrics look great. But that doesn't mean you get all season to hit 156 with a 565 OPS. Eventually those metrics have to translate. And if they don't, well, Lane Thomas comes back. David Fry comes back. Chase DeLauder becomes an option. CJ Kafis becomes an option. Juan Brito eventually becomes an option. So, would Rocchio still be on the Major League roster if Juan Brito was healthy? There's a very good chance no. So, eventually guys do come back, and it puts a deadline on player performance. And so we're going to start to see that.
It's good news that this audition's happening. I do feel like much better about some guys at the beginning of the season than I did. Like Angel Martinez now factors in some way until he proves that he shouldn't. And then you have talented guys like Thomas and Fry coming back. So these are all good problems to have, but also it'll be fascinating to see how they're all deployed. Last question I have for you. What do you make of Jose Ramirez's first quarter of the season? And I bring it up because I don't even think I realized until late in the game that he was hitting 290. Now he's at 286. I don't feel like he has had a really hot stretch so far this year. And here's the slash line: 286, 346, 471. That's 29% above league average for a hitter this year. 6 home runs, not like the power's completely gone. 9 steals. Like he's just having a solid start, and yet I don't feel like he's ever caught fire.
I had the same exact epiphany as you did on Sunday. I did a double take. I thought there must have been an error on the scoreboard. When they're, at the beginning of a series when they're clearly just like inputting all the names into the scoreboard. And I remember Friday afternoon standing on the field and looking up, and they had reliever Orion Kirkering was like hitting 7th and starting at second base. And I was thinking, this guy throws like 97 miles an hour. Why are you wasting his arm at second base? I thought it was one of those. I thought it was like, oh man, they forgot to update Jose's stats, and it's actually Quan or something. It's been so weird because he came back from that injury, and in Anaheim he hits 3 homers in a game, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, finally the MVP season. He's going to hit 40 homers. He's going to go 40-40. And I've always felt like if he really wanted to, this guy could hit like 325. This is going to be the year. And it's been so weird. He's been so bad defensively. It makes no sense. Right? I understand you age, you get worse defensively, you don't have quite the agility you did. That doesn't happen overnight. And this guy was a Gold Glove finalist last year, and the Guardians felt like he should have won it. So you don't just lose that. I don't know what's happened there. It's been strange. And then offensively, there are so many times when I'm like, look, I know you probably feel like you have to carry this offense, but just take a walk, okay? Or just like slap a single the other way. Just get on base. That's what they need from you right now. And if you go out of your way to try to make too much happen, you're just going to pop it up. And like this guy has such a good handle of the strike zone and such good contact ability that when he's not patient and when he's chasing, which he's done quite a bit this year, that's when he gets himself into trouble. And I think the last week or so, I feel like he's drawn some more walks. He's accepted the fact that, fine, I'll just poke a single or I'll hit one in the gap instead of trying to hit one out. But we have also seen this guy, it's still there. The most impressive thing he's done all year is when the other night he hits one that would have been a home run, but it goes foul by like 5 feet. And on the very next pitch, he hits one out to the same area of the ballpark. You never see that.
And yet Angel did it earlier too.
He did, but I just, that tells me that like he's on it. And I've felt for the last week or so that he's been on it. And, you look at his on-base percentage and his average are higher than they were last season. It's just the slugging percentage is down a little bit. And so It's why, like, I think he'll be fine. I think he's kind of a streaky hitter at times too. And whenever we say like, "Uh-oh, is he getting old, or is he just he's not doing his part?" Like, he always makes us look foolish. So we should just stop. And eventually, he's gonna hit that cliff, and his numbers are gonna decline, and the production's gonna decline. Let that happen before we start saying this guy's not the same guy or he's not doing enough. I'm pretty confident he's going to be fine.
Yeah,
but it's been a weird first quarter. Like, don't get me wrong,
it has.
But I have no reservations about him having a very Jose Ramirez like season when it's all said and done.
I mean, if I can be underwhelmed by a 29% below or 29% above league average first quarter for Ramirez, like, then maybe some really good things are on the horizon. It's really the defense has killed him. He's at -4 in fielding run value. It's been bad. He had those errors at the beginning of the season that's sort of dragging down the entire WAR total here.
And he's on your WAR draft team, is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you have that glove behind you with pins and needles stuck? Is that what I see down there?
No, that's the Jerry Seinfeld puffy shirt.
Let's shift gears here a little bit. No, this is not a Red Sox podcast, but I did find a linking between Rafael Devers, that situation in Boston with him not wanting to play first base, and a situation that happened in Cleveland that maybe not all of our listeners are remembering or even alive for. So back in 1996, I know you know this story, the Indians brought back Eddie Murray. He had a great 95 season. He played some first base, but predominantly DH. They brought in Julio Franco to occupy first base to replace Paul Sorrento. And they had a discussion with Murray. Hey, we're going to pay you a little bit less because we just want you to DH. That's all you're doing. You're just hitting. You're not going to be playing the field. And so eventually they came to their agreement. And then in the season, we need a first baseman. Julio Franco is hurt. And later in the year, they traded for Mark Carrion, and then he got hurt. And so they're always looking for a first baseman. And they said, Eddie, we really need you to play first base. And he said, but I'm a DH. You paid me to just DH. And what was he at this time? 41 years old, 42 years old? And
I think he was 40 or 41.
Yeah, so he's up there in age, and he said, you paid me to DH. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to DH. And it got so much bad blood. I mean, he's off also not hitting very well with Cleveland at the time. He ends up getting traded to Baltimore for Kent Mercker, and then the Michael Jordan meme. Then I took that personally, and he did. He went off against Cleveland in the playoffs and had a really good final couple months with Baltimore and into the postseason. But that reminded me of that situation with Devers. And I don't know where you're at on it, but I sort of hear where the player is coming from, but I also sort of hear where the team is coming from. And I just feel like I don't know who's in the wrong, who's in the right. I kind of agree with everybody in this situation, but maybe how it's being handled is not the greatest.
I mean, the player's going to look bad because, well, you wanted to play third base, and you didn't want to move off third when they signed Bregman, and now you get to play first, which should be easier. I don't know. You had a problem the first time, and you're going to have a problem again. Like, I get it, but I also don't know, like, what's been said or communicated behind closed doors, so, yeah, is it that hard to play first base? Like, a lot of, like, I don't know. Jose Ramirez's numbers are terrible usually when he DHs. I feel like he always wants to be in the field. So if you're Devers, like, aren't you bored in the dugout when you're just DHing every day?
I mean, hey, I get that maybe you figured out something that works for you with DH.
Sure.
The numbers have been really good since that. He had a really bad first series. He struck out a ton, and then he's been phenomenal. Uh-huh. I think this is probably more just pride and ego and just, well, you didn't want me to play the field, so
that's an expensive DH, though, man. He signed a mega deal.
He's only got like 8 years left on the contract.
Right.
So.
More than anything, I want to know if you can name all 8 players who started a game at first base for the 1996 Indians.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, first base, 96. Well, obviously, Julio Franco.
Yeah, he was the leader with 96 starts, and the rest of the list is just hilarious, I'm just going to say.
Mark Carrion.
Yep, 32.
Alvaro Espinoza, did he make his way to first base?
8 starts there, which is just crazy because he was the utility guy. That doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like a first baseman.
Herbert Perry, did he play at first base at all?
3 games.
Okay. Who's next on the list that I haven't, like, the amount of games?
12.
God.
Someone who was also traded that year.
I don't think Burnitz played first at all, did he?
I should say traded to Cleveland, then traded after the season that year. No, Burnitz played 16 games in the outfield and 11 at DH.
Some guy, I don't think he amounted to much afterwards, Jeff Kent.
Jeff Kent, 12 starts. So you've got the top 4, Franco, Carrion, Kent, Espinoza. There's another trade acquisition. You got Herbert Perry's 3, so you're missing 3 names.
Oh, it's gonna kill me. Did Eddie play at all first base?
One start.
I hope he got that 1 game bonus.
All right, you want to know the other 2?
Yeah.
Kevin Seitzer.
Oh, I figured he wouldn't have. Okay. Fair.
Made 5 starts. I mean, you're never going to get Scott Leyes.
Scott Leyes. Good gravy.
Yeah, 27 games he appeared in for Cleveland in 96. He went 6 for 43. Played first, played a little third, played a little second. That's it. That's the list.
There's at least one trade maybe they later regretted making. Although Seitzer was amazing in 96 after they got him, but Burnitz was okay with
It's amazing
Milwaukee.
how that's like the one team we never talk about, even though they were still a juggernaut. Just because they got knocked out in the first round, I guess.
And they were a disappointment because they didn't follow up 95 with a similar, as amazing season.
That team was really good, though. 99 wins. Nagy was great.
Did they still lead?
But no first baseman.
Did they still lead the American League in pitching that year? Like, they were still okay?
Yeah, the pitching was pretty good. Like a 112 ERA plus as a team. They were pretty good. Jose Mesa was not anywhere near what he was the year before, but like Plunk and Shuey were really good. Asamacher was really good. Hershiser was still solid. And then the offense, like, I mean, they hit 293 as a team. 844 team OPS.
I mean, you could have hit 293 in 1996.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, 286, maybe 286. But there are some trades made there that they later regretted. You've covered that in the mailbag. Some trades that almost could have gotten made that they really would have regretted. A couple of these, like every time you bring it up, just floors me that it was even a conversation. It sounds so silly now.
Well, someone asked me on the mailbag. They said someone was on Guardians Reddit, I think, had stumbled across an article from 10 years ago as they were working out the trade for Brandon Moss, that it could have been Jose Ramirez traded for Brandon Moss. And I remember at the time, I know Oakland wanted a middle infield prospect or like someone on the cusp of the majors. And I know the Jose Ramirez's name was mentioned in there. I think Eric Gonzalez maybe too. And they eventually settled on Joey Wendell. And the consensus at the time was like, what a steal by Cleveland. Like, Moss is a great fit. He had been an all-star. He had hit a bunch of home runs for a few years in Oakland. Getting him out of that ballpark would help. He also, though, had surgery to repair a torn labrum in his hip like 6 weeks before the trade went down. And then his Cleveland tenure was a disaster. 94 games, just kind of stunk. And they dumped him mid-season at the trade deadline. And so, yeah, obviously, the takeaway here is like, if that was Jose Ramirez for Brandon Moss, yeah, I don't.
That's fireable.
Yeah.
Somebody loses their job doing that.
But it reminded me of something I heard a few years ago that, like, they were talking, this never happened. They always wanted Billy Hamilton. And they tried to trade for him.
They got him later.
They tried to trade for him a couple times, and they finally signed him in spring training of 2021. And he was here for 4 weeks, and then they let him go. And so I'm thinking, spring of 2021, and let's see who was the reigning Cy Young winner at that time. A guy named Shane Bieber, who that was the discussion. Shane Bieber for Billy Hamilton a few years earlier. So yes, sometimes it is the trades you don't make that are the best trades. And on that note, Tobias Myers and the Milwaukee Brewers are in town. Although Myers was sent to the minors, I believe, so you won't see him.
What did they? I don't even remember what they gave up to get Myers. Do you? You recall? I don't.
Some young prospect, teenager at the time.
Yeah, it probably came to nothing. No big deal. God, imagine the universe where they traded Jose and Bieber. Although Bieber would have stunk because, he wouldn't have had all the mentorship to throw harder.
Yeah, I mean, would Jose Ramirez have thrived in Oakland?
It'd have been terrible.